Welcome to Babe Take a Seat. I'm your host, Jeanine, and I help women pivot with intention after divorce, life change, loss, perimenopause, all sorts of life changes. My guest here today is Marieke Steen, and she is a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and master restorative wellness practitioner. And she helps midlife women who feel overlooked by conventional narratives feel more energized, lose weight, improve skin conditions, sleep well, and end the anxiety, irritability, and depression. She's also the author of Hormone Balancing Cookbook and Hormone Harmony. I'm so excited that you're here with me today, and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jeanine. It's a pleasure.
Can you tell me a little bit about your personal journey and how you got to where you are today?
Basically, I think I've been a difficult child already, and I've had chronic digestive issues and migraines ever since I was like 3 years old. And then, when like my periods, when I started having them, it was basically a nightmare. It was very heavy bleeding. Then I had those monthly migraines, the hormonal migraines coming in. And I was just very irritable, always constipated, all these kind of things, very bad cramping. But I never knew, I always thought it was normal. I never known any better.
Yeah.
And it was basically, you could say in my mid-30s when things just started to go downhill with my health. And I think there were several aspects, now looking back at it, but it was basically, my digestive issues became very bad. So I had like food sensitivities. It felt like I was, removing more and more foods from my diet, like every couple of weeks. There was yet another thing that I couldn't seem to digest anymore without getting, horrible gas, bloating, or like skin rashes. And so I started, looking for solutions. I've always been very into natural solutions, and especially with my migraines, I've never been somebody who's like taken a lot of medication or like heavy stuff. I've always basically been very no, because it seemed that I kind of knew my body couldn't handle it, and probably also because I was over medicated as a child. That must be like some sort of, back trauma in my back end. So I've always had this aversion against any chemical drugs, and I've always tried to find like natural solutions for my body. But at this point, nothing seemed to help. And then, I was doing more research and more and more and more. And I just really didn't know what I was doing anymore. I was trying all the supplements and reading this. Oh, maybe I should try this. And then I was reading that article, and I was like, and then I got so fed up, and I thought, okay, so either I find somebody who actually does know what they're talking about and they're able to help me, or I actually do this myself. And so I had kind of exhausted the medical system here. I'd gone to so many different doctors, and they all basically, what we know, they basically tell you, oh, you're stressed, and they send you back home. And I mean, I actually had a doctor give me beta blockers because I had, such bad anxiety attacks, and I said, I had this kind of, heart palpitations. So he gave me beta blockers. I mean, there was nothing wrong with my heart, and I was 35, I think, and I was in good physical, shape. So I was exercising regularly. I mean, there was really no reason. And I mean, at the time I was actually so overwhelmed and so stressed. I even went to get the drug from the pharmacy, and then I was looking, and it's like, oh my God, these are beta blockers. I'm not going to take that. And so I just threw them away. But yeah, basically, so that already helped me actually understand, okay, I do have leaky gut, and that's why I have the food sensitivities. And so I started healing my gut, and I felt a little bit better already, but it wasn't actually good enough. Yeah. So I had to continue my search, and that's where I ended up with the Restorative Wellness Solutions, who really are into the functional testing. I hadn't had my period for almost a year. So, I was actually at that time, I was like, a doctor had said, yeah, your hormones are worse than menopause. So
Wow.
my hormones were completely tanked. I didn't have a period. I mean, thank God I didn't have so many migraines actually at that time. But yeah, it was just, I was a complete mess. I was so fatigued and basically like 2 weeks, I think, into my healing protocol, my eczema went away and it didn't come back. So I was
Oh,
like,
amazing.
oh my gosh, finally.
So I love that you were your own first client, your own first patient. That's amazing. And that you've experienced both
Yeah.
sides.
I get who come with a diagnosis of IBS.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm like, I mean, they basically, they have digestive problems and then they get like cameras in all the openings of their bodies. And then they just get sent home with saying, oh, you have IBS. And yeah. And so what's the solution to that? Well, okay. I gave you a diagnosis. Now you go home.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
I mean, it's so frustrating for me. It's just really like a bullshit label for,
Mhm.
I don't know what's wrong with you.
Right.
And so now you go home and maybe you find a way to deal with it because I don't know what's wrong with you and I don't know how to help you. But in the end, you're basically, it's just what's so frustrating, I think, what was for me and also for many women is that you're just discarded and you're basically being told that you're wrong and
Yes.
something's wrong with you. And then you go see more and more doctors and you actually start doubting yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear you saying, I'm always looking for when people are mentioning intuition, I mentioned before, is the root of the work that I do with women, helping them trust themselves because we do have the answers within us. It's such a, I say that to
Yeah.
people, everyone says that, but it's true. We have been taught by society to stop listening at some point in our lives and start to project outside and just receive all of the information, the diagnoses, the assumptions, all of the stuff that we've just, talked about. Um, or as they say, when they don't know what it is in the States, they say it's atypical. And that's the diagnosis, atypical, which means we don't know. It's not typical. And then that sort of ends there. So
Yeah.
I would love to talk about your intuition with regard to knowing that you really needed to listen to your body beyond what some of the experts were saying. And I'm not discounting medical science. Of course, I'm a total proponent for doctors. But when you know your body at a level that only you can understand, and you intuitively know this is not right, something's not right. Um, how did you get to the point where you trusted that and you continued to pursue some answers and you took it upon yourself to do that yourself? That's a huge step a lot of people don't take.
Yeah, I think actually for me this has always been pretty natural. So I've always had this kind of strong voice of justice
Hmm.
and kind of knowing what's right for me. And I've always been most of the times been able to really follow that as well. And so that's why I went back to school studying because I'm kind of I'm this kind of person who's like, okay, this is annoying. Nobody's helping me, but I need a solution. So, okay, if nobody's helping me, I'm going to do it myself. So I get in
Yeah.
this kind of, like almost angry mode. I said, okay, then I'm going to do it myself. And I mean, that's not always also the best thing, to do
We'll
things
say fun.
yourself if others don't help you, we could talk about that as well, but but in this case, it has helped me and it has actually, also, I mean, I know when something's off and I think most women do.
Yeah.
It's really about trusting that, that you haven't felt like that before. And this is something new, or it's something that maybe, that has kind of creeped up, and you haven't noticed it immediately. That often happens, I think, when you're in this kind of go, go to work. Basically you're in this routine and you have all these things going on. And then after a while you basically, and what your body does is, if you're not hearing it, it will scream louder. and
Yeah.
then your symptoms will get stronger until the moment you actually stop and you say like, oh, wait a minute, this is really bothering me. And then
Yes.
you look back and then you go like, oh, actually, this is not the first time this has come up. It's just now that I feel it. But actually now I realize it's been like this for the past maybe 3 to 4 months already, so
Yeah.
your body's always telling you, but you're not always listening. And I'm also not. There are times where you're basically, in the go mode, and you don't always have time, or you don't always allow yourself,
Yeah.
to listen to what your body's telling you. But I think everyone has this. It's just really, as you say, a matter of hearing the voice and trusting it. And then, if you're not able to connect the dots, find somebody who can help you connect the dots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
How do you encourage your clients to trust their intuition in themselves?
I had such a funny story with one client who actually traveled to Ireland to see her family. And she said, it's actually funny that, I don't feel as balanced anymore. And she's been taking a hormone replacement. And so she said, so yeah, I was traveling, and I don't know, I think my estrogen, the bottle, I think it may have been too cold in the house that I was staying, because it got a little bit cloudy, and I feel it's not working anymore. And but then I asked her, like, what are your symptoms? How do you actually, what makes you feel that what makes you feel not as balanced anymore? So I said, but it's funny, but what you're describing are actually symptoms of too much estrogen. And
Oh,
then, I said, okay, so, in the house that you were staying, you said it was cold. So, I mean, like, and she said, yeah, because basically the heating hasn't been on, and, it was in Ireland. I said, could there have been mold in the house? And she's like, yes, there was mold. Like, how did you know?
wow.
And I said, well, what's going on with you is that you have now estrogen dominance because you've been exposed to mold, which is kicking off your histamine. So you have high histamine that basically that puts you in excess estrogen mode, because histamine and estrogen is using the same receptors in your body. So when you have a high histamine reaction, you also get more estrogen. The more histamine, the more estrogen. So it's kind of building each other up. And many women actually get more allergies also when they're in peri or in menopause. So I said, so we need to do some detox,
Yeah. Wow.
and that's what we did. And it came back, she came back to normal. So, and I mean, that was an easy mold story because
That's
mold is
fascinating.
usually not, yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's basically, that's kind of like a,
I had zero idea that would be connected, or that it could even be impacted. Super interesting. And
yeah,
so that, like, you've just opened up this door to this really fascinating conversation about how our life circumstances impact our health, right? Whether it's the life
yeah,
transitions we're going through, how life moves quickly, you were talking about before, that we don't always hear our bodies speaking to us because life is moving fast. And then you got to throw in all of the different times and phases in our lives, and loss and stress and trauma. Um, it's amazing how all of that interrelates and really does make such an impact on receiving information, either internally, and how our bodies, minds, and souls respond. So I'm fascinated with trauma's impact on intuition. How has that played out for either you personally or your clients with relation to body and physical health and times of stress and loss?
I had some trauma stored deep in myself that I actually wasn't aware of. And
Yeah.
so I had lost my dad when I was just turned 25. And it was a really traumatic experience at the time because it was very sudden and, unexpected. And basically I just couldn't deal with it. And I just kind of locked it up in myself because that was, I wanted to function and I always hated to cry. So I've really tried to avoid that as much as possible. So, I mean, of course I did cry, but I was like, okay, I don't want to continue being like this. So it was just basically, okay, now it's all in and, life goes on and now it's going to be like the next thing. And it did haunt me back. I mean, I did like a ton of work at the time. I worked on healing my gut. But I did also start working with a coach, and I actually changed my career as well. There were so many things. And at the time, actually, my grandmother died, and that, going back to that church and the graveyard, and basically being in that same room where my dad was buried, that basically just brought up all those memories, and it triggered. I was so triggered after that, and it was really. I hadn't realized how I had kind of locked this up inside, and I did start working with a coach, and also because I was like dissatisfied, I think, with my career, and I felt so fatigued, and I thought, okay, but basically I'm summing up all my energy to go to work every day, but then I have no energy left on the weekend to actually do something fun. So I'm just going to work, and I'm doing my daily tasks, but there's no room for fun or no energy for doing anything else than that. I don't want to live like this, and I basically thought, I've always been more of a actually, I've been more of an intuitive, social kind of healer type person, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it never fit in what my, kind of how I was raised, or the values of my family. And so basically I've always worked in this kind of fast paced, male dominated, environments where, there was no room for emotions, or and basically I've always tried to also push that side of me away. I didn't want to be that vulnerable female. No, it's like I'm doing push-ups, and I'm the same as the men. I'm going the same pace. I'm not like emotional. I'm not crying. I'm not, doing any of that. So I was completely also telling myself that it's all wrong and it's not good. And so I think going through this phase kind of allowed me to reconnect with myself, and also allow, to say, okay, maybe I am emotional. I'm actually very emotional, but that's okay. It's not such a bad thing. It's just who I am, and I also need to accept it. And it can be a good thing also to be emotional, or to be an empath. So basically, I was on this, and that's how I came to doing this. But yeah, now I'm actually much happier because I also have freedom.
I can relate.
And yeah. And coming into the hormones, I think it's something that has, that has always been a problem for me. I don't, my problems were not only hormonal, but also, digestion and immune, but as I said, I mean, it seems like, perimenopause kind of hit me when I was 37, and, I didn't have a period anymore, and my thyroid was completely wacko, and, I had like, everything was everything was crazy, and my sleep went completely downhill. I couldn't sleep anymore. And ever since then, I think also with kind of what I've learned about hormones, it's allowed me actually to manage it pretty well, to have like minimal symptoms. And it also always means to listen in again and adjust, because what I've done for sleep when I was 38, 39, that didn't work anymore at one point. But basically understanding what is it,
Hmm.
sleep is also such a difficult topic, what I see with my clients, because many of them, it's actually more brain based and more anxiety based, this kind of, not coming to rest. So if you understand, what's keeping you from sleeping, is it actually your blood sugar that's because because you're eating the wrong things from the start in the morning. So your blood sugar is actually, going down while you sleep, and you get insomnia because your cortisol rises and that keeps you up. Or is it because you're this kind of, hyperactive, too much thinking, anxiety kind of person who needs something that's calming the brain down so you can actually go to that sleep. And as I said, I'm more of a functional clinical person as well. I kind of have those two sides. So I have this watch that's also monitoring my sleep, and I can definitely actually see in my sleep. So I can see if I take this supplement, I have more REM sleep. If I take that supplement, I have more deep sleep. So, I'm kind of testing that on myself,
I can
and
totally
it's
appreciate
pretty.
this.
Sorry.
Sorry, I said I can totally appreciate having those two sides, right? You've got the very in tune intuitive side, but also the tracking and the science and the logic behind it all makes sense. We need both.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's so many questions I want to ask you. Jumping back to you were saying, working through different life changes and things, and I agree with you. I also refer out when clients are dealing with, different stages of trauma and things that are more therapeutic, or they need a licensed therapist to help them navigate those changes. There's space to work with and collaborate with all sorts of practitioners.
Yeah, hair loss. I mean, but how would you know? Because you can hair loss can be testosterone excess. It can be your thyroid going wacko. It can be a lack of iron or even other nutrients. So and it's often like a combination. It's usually not one thing. We're always looking for this one thing, that makes us sick, or that makes us feel unwell, or that will trigger a migraine, but it's never one thing. And that's what I learned also with my own health. I was also looking for this. There's many people like chasing a diagnosis.
Hmm.
But then, what does that bring you? In the end, a diagnosis is not a solution to your problem. What you actually need to do is, change your diet, incorporate stress management techniques, allow yourself time, go outside every day. I mean, it's all those basic needs that
Right.
we're often, not even respecting. Hydrating. How many people are not drinking enough water, and then you're wondering why you're not able to go to the bathroom. That you may be severely constipated and you just need to drink water.
Right.
But I mean, often it's not just that, but it can be as silly as that as well. So, and I mean, just dehydration can be a stress on the body too. Just being a little bit dehydrated will actually kick off a cortisol response. And then what happens when we're in peri, because of our declining sex hormones, our base level of cortisol, of stress hormone, is actually higher than it used to be. And that's why we actually feel less resilient, why we have more anxiety. Some women have it, especially in the morning when cortisol is naturally high. So it's all these things that kind of add up together. When you're getting older, I think you have accumulated
Hmm.
trauma, stress,
Yeah.
all these things, and also your cells are aging. So things are not like functioning better than they were when you were 20. And then
Right.
you actually get frustrated, looking back, like, when I was 20, this thing actually, I could do it, and it didn't hurt me at all. And now I have to recover 3 days,
Yeah.
after a week, after like going a night drinking, or, something
Right.
like that. So, it's really about what I always say is, it's a time where you actually can't cut the corners anymore. You really need to take care of yourself. You need to make yourself a priority, and you need to eat well, rest, sleep well. And that sometimes, can be a challenge for sure. But you need to basically get all those basic things in order, so that you can feel better. And the thing is, the more stress and the more cortisol you have, cortisol will eat up your progesterone. So you basically, even if you're on hormone replacement, the more stress you have, you will actually feel like your hormone replacement will not be working anymore because you have all that stress. So you need to, stress management is like one of the most difficult things, I think that everyone needs to do, and that it's kind of the most difficult thing to do because you don't know how to, or you don't find the time,
Yes.
or
Totally.
yeah,
It's something that can be really easily worked into a routine, but it's not easy, right? Going for a walk, meditating, grounding yourself, these little practices that we could fold into our
yeah,
day to help manage it. The consistency, I think, is what my clients come up with the
and,
most difficult is creating that consistent routine and respecting that something so really simple, a yoga class, a walk in the woods, forest bathing, however people find the way to just calm their system, is the first thing that gets swept away during times of stress. I say it as like
yes,
we give the steering wheel to other people while we're driving through these times of stress, and yeah, something that's super important.
yeah, I totally agree. But I mean, that's
How,
also what I do with my clients. I help them integrate those things in their routine so that it does become a habit. And when you say you don't have the time, but honestly, I would say, like, how much time does it take to eat? Sit
right,
down and eat. It's not more than 15 minutes. And there you're not like rushing, so you can't tell me that you can't find 15 minutes to sit down and eat. You don't have to stand up and gulp down a sandwich. So,
right,
or just going for, I basically like to tell people to take the stairs, go each break that you can get. I used to go outside with the smokers, although I
hmm,
didn't smoke, but I used to go out with them to take a break, to go get some fresh air, because I always hated being in that indoor office environment. I always, I'm a kind of an outdoorsy person. I feel best when I'm outside. And I think people are just not they're basically completely discarding that. And if you just can, if you have a break between meetings, if you have meetings all day, you can surely go for 5 minutes around the block and go back to the next meeting. And already that will have made a difference. Or take a 10-minute walk after lunch,
hmm,
or, these kind of things. And it is always possible if you look for the opportunity.
yeah, absolutely. This has been so great. But what is the best way for people to reach out to you when they have heard you talking today and recognize their own symptoms, or symptoms from someone that they know? What's the easiest way for people to reach you?
I guess that would be going on my website and just booking a free discovery call. I offer this free 30-minute chat to basically get to know each other and, learn about, what problem people want, or women want to solve. And that also allows me then to, confidently say, yes, I can help you with this, or maybe this is not a good fit and it would be better you see, somebody else.
That's perfect. So I do thank you. And again, I'll have all the links below. So I do have a question for you that's on intuition. It's a personal question I like to end all of the podcasts with. So when you tap into your own intuition, when you're using your intuition in your everyday life, if you could think of a time where you really trusted that, what are three words to describe how you feel when you tap into your intuition?
I guess aligned,
Mm-hmm.
sure, excited.
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love to hear how it resonates with different people. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun conversation. I can see we have a lot in common, so that was really nice.
Thank you so much. Let's definitely do it again.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed it, and you'll join us again next time. You can reach my guests through the links in the comments below, and you can always find me at JeanineTripodi.com, on Instagram as JeanineTripodi, and on Facebook and YouTube as Jeanine Tripodi Coaching. If you prefer to watch this video, jump on that YouTube channel, Jeanine Tripodi Coaching. Have a great day.